Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Urban Wine Club Sip Clips. My
Yes.
host, who's laughing with me, Ari Kalos,
We're always laughing together. That's the
right?
good thing.
And let's welcome all of our fans and followers to the segment. We truly love the fact that you are appreciating what we do and have interest. And every week is an interesting topic when it comes to learning about wine. Obviously, our job here is to break it down and make it easy and simple for everyone to understand and enjoy wine. And this sip clip, we're going to be exploring the grape Cabernet Franc.
Franc.
So
Did you ever see that movie, Father of the Bride?
I want to say, is that with Martin?
Steve Martin and Martin
Martin.
Short.
Yes, yes,
And Martin
yes.
Short plays Franc.
Yeah. That's what comes to your mind when you hear
That's all
Franc.
that's all I could think about. he,
But
he did a good job.
most of us, I'm sure, are very familiar with Cabernet Sauvignon.
Absolutely, yes.
But there's also Cabernet Franc, which lately most folks are starting to come to realize that it's an actually fantastic grape. It wasn't always the most selected wine on the wine list or in a wine shop, just because not many folks are familiar.
Well,
And why is that?
give us like a little breakdown of the history of the
So,
of Franc.
so Cabernet Franc is a red grape that originates in the southern French countryside in northern Spain. So just like in that geographic area where it plants all over that place. And Cabernet Franc is a unique grape that has a lot of textures, aromas, and flavors. Um, Harry, have you had one before?
You know,
I think
I
you
think
have.
I did. I think you actually gave me one. Um, and I think I drank it. And if I drank it, I liked it. And I'm pretty sure there was one I liked. But I was waiting for your kind of description to
Sure.
kind of get my brain back to where that was.
So one thing I'll put out there in the very beginning is for those that have tried Cabernet Franc, sometimes you get disappointed because in their mind, for some reason, they're trying to associate it with uh, Cabernet Sauvignon. So there are two different types of grapes that make two different styles of wine. So try not to compare one to the
Yeah,
other.
it's tough for people, and I'm guilty of this, but they hear Cabernet and boom, their mind automatically just has something in it. So when you go to sip it, it's like you automatically have a taste in
Right,
your mind.
definitely. So here's a skinny on Cabernet Franc. It's been around for a long time, hundreds of years. It's been producing wine in the French and Spanish industry for hundreds of years. And about the 1600s, there was an experiment where certain individuals were taking the vines of Cabernet Franc and the vines of Sauvignon Blanc, which is a white grape. They grafted them together and they were experimenting and they came up with this hybrid grape, which they started to call Cabernet Sauvignon. That's where the grape gets its name. Half
Okay.
Cabernet, half Sauvignon Blanc. And it's a red grape. Um, and it took on different textures, aromas, and flavors. But for me specifically, I grew onto Cabernet Franc in the last maybe 7 or 8 years. Prior to that, I wasn't a big fan, only because I was ignorant, because I was so into the craze with Cabernet Sauvignon and all these, New World California wines, and kind of pushed Cabernet Franc to the side. And I hate myself for doing that. But now, coming around to it, it's a wine that I've grown to love because it has a balance of, in my opinion, everything. It's got great aromas for red wine. It's got great textures. It's smooth, but also what I like about it, it has a little bit of spice to it, where it kicks in, really gets your palate going. So now that the weather is changing and it's getting cool right now, unfortunately, we've dipped from being in the 90s 2 weeks ago to now being in the 60s up here in Boston,
For me, I love that. That's my
right?
favorite.
So now we're gonna, now we're trying to sleep with like blankets where before it's like you wanted to pull your hair out. But I've been drinking a lot of cold white wine up until these last 2 weeks. And I just automatically, the weather changed and I just changed myself as well. And nothing fits better for me when it comes to wine consumption than a red like Cabernet Franc. Its origins are from France, and the ones we're going to sip today come from the Loire Valley. So the Loire Valley is known for making a lot of great Cabernet Franc. And there's a producer that I'm a big fan of. The winery is called Chateau de Hero. And I think, Ari, I've given you a bottle of this, and this is
Yep.
their tooth, right? So the tooth is their flagship Cabernet Franc that's affordable, and it just always constantly delivers. So the moment we crack the bottle, you get a lot of seasonal autumn aromas that come to the glass. And not to like kind of compare this to the Christmas tree shop when you walk in there, but I do get a lot of those essence. You get a lot of cinnamon and spice that come right through the bottle, dark berries that come through the bottle, and then once you pour it into the bottle, it's a pretty dark wine. They got Cabernet Franc has very dark, thick skins. So if you can see that,
Yeah.
right? And, the hues are dark purple too in the glass, very inky. But it looks very, very decadent and rich, but it's actually not as thick. Someone might say, like, what do you mean by that? It's not as thick. It has a nice texture. The density is very balanced. It's not too overwhelming. Where the wines, for me, like this, go down a lot easier. Because when things are too rich and too thick, psychologically, you start to get filled pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Does that happen to you?
Yeah.
So again, very very fall-like aromas, very rustic. And someone's like, what does that mean, rustic? Rustic is basically, to me, like nature.
Yeah.
The scent in the air, the grass, the dirt that's on the ground, all that combined creates this essence of rustic elements. I'm gonna take a sip. A little bit of grip there with the tannins. Definitely has some great tannins. Um, it's interesting because this is the red wine that's been around for such a long time, and this was the staple wine of the area, the Loire, southern France, the Basque area of Spain. And then when you come back to it, I mean, these wines were meant to be this way because of the region and what they have for food and their food culture. They're so balanced that it makes a great sipping wine, but it makes an amazing food wine.
So would you classify this in your taste as something complex or simple?
Um,
Because
for,
I try to play the role of the person
so
who's not
right.
actually drinking it while listening to you, and I want like the way you described it. It sounds a little bit complex, but I'm not quite sure because then you had
You
the description of smooth and
you definitely have a point there. It is complex because it has many layers. The wine has starting with the aromas, then diving into textures. It has layers that make it complex. What do I mean by complex? It means that you're taking your time to understand the wine from flavor and textures. It's not something that's very, I'm not going to use the word bland because there are wines that are made in a way that they're just so easy to drink that they just go down without even thinking. Here, there's layers of flavors and textures that it really kind of challenges your palate as you're sipping. So you're thinking as you're sipping the wine.
so let me ask you this. If I once upon a time was somebody who liked wine that would go down without even thinking, and now I don't want to say I can't stand it, but like I avoid that kind of wine now, and I need something that's gonna like hit me, and I have to think about it, and I have to feel it, and I have to like that. Is that because my palate is getting?
Bored?
Is
Yeah,
that what it is?
that's what it is. That's I was going to try to make a reference to that, but you already hit it on the head. When you're drinking, when you're drinking selections that are easygoing, easy to drink, not that much going on, but just some good flavors. Over time, you get your palate gets bored of it. You might not think that, but that's what's happening. And then when you're introduced to something a little more complex and a little more like, what is this?
Yeah.
Then you're starting to desire more of that,
Like it's almost like I need the wine to give me like a kick
right?
when I take a sip now. And if it doesn't, I'm just like, oh, this is kind of
Turned
boring.
off. So it's like, it's just like when you were dating, like if it was too easy, you got bored of it. But if it was a challenge, you wanted it more, right?
I never got bored. We digress, though. Back to wine.
Right. So that's basically, in my opinion, what happens with your experiences with wine and probably anything else in life. But as you continue to drink and you evolve as a drinker, you definitely become a little more intuitive to, certain attributes of the wine, and you become more inquisitive. You become more curious.
Is that
So
a sophistication? Would you say, or is that
that's
something different?
well, to some it's sophistication. Some people will label that as sophistication. Others will relate to that as a passion, and then others will relate that to it as an obsession.
Because I'm dying to be able to label myself as a sophisticated wine drinker. I don't think I can yet, but
Well,
that's what I'm aiming for.
the fact that you're a co-host on this show makes you automatically a sophisticated drinker. Because the truth is, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up your hiney, but um, what you've been exposed to, you probably know more than 99% of today's drinkers, anyways.
Oh wow!
Statistically, on paper.
I need to get a Foti stamp of approval certificate so I can put on my wall.
Just send me 9.99 to this address and you'll get one.
That's our next business venture.
Right? But yeah, I mean, if you're looking to kind of push yourself outside of your comfort zone, if you have been a Cabernet Sauvignon drinker for a long time and you still enjoy that, but you want to try something different, Cabernet Franc is definitely a recommendation that we personally have. I find it to be something that everyone should try. When I was on the restaurant side of the industry, working the dining rooms or working wine programs, I would always make sure that Cabernet Franc was uh, either acknowledged or it was recommended or even was sampled to guests. And you'd be amazed at the response where most folks are like, "Oh, I never knew. I never had one. This is great. I wish I knew earlier." But again, it's one of those things where marketing sometimes will drive what people drink, obviously. But there's a lot of hitting gems. We're big fans of sourcing and finding cool wines from the smaller guys that are out there, the ones that are true to their heritage of winemaking, and they just stay true to that, and they continuously make amazing wines year after year. So
And
that's
that's also why we have a whole webinar series of Vines Unknown, because
yes,
we like to find these off the beaten path type of places and winemakers and something that you're not just going to walk into a wine shop and see like tons and tons of. It's something a little more exclusive. I don't know if that's the word, but something a little more than just your off the line, millionth bottle.
yeah, and now that we're as consumers, think about this consumer wise. We love to explore different foods, right? We're all about trying different restaurants, and we're all about trying different cuisines, and we're all about exploring different recipes at home. So that's the same case with wine now. I'm finding that more and more individuals are willing to try wines outside of their you know comfort zone. I use the word comfort zone, but it's also their wheelhouse. Like, what do they like to drink on average?
Yeah.
And this is the time to do so, because we are accessible or have access to so many different great wines around the world that it's like, for me, it's like the Disneyland of the wine world. There's so much to have and so much to see and so much to learn.
And would you say that this is one of the better seasons to be drinking a Cabernet Franc?
This is ideal. This is where the season begins for Cabernet Franc, and it carries through the winter because it's inviting, and definitely when the weather's cooler, it warms you up in different ways. It soothes you. Obviously, temperature wise, it could probably warm you up a bit, but just that inner feeling, it just connects with you when the weather's cooler outside.
I'm super like just excited that the weather just dropped a little bit and it's getting a little chillier. And I'm drinking my wine and it just I don't know why, but I just have such a better feeling right now because I'm a little bit chilly and that red wine just hits the spot. And it's like, I'm so excited just to have the next few months.
I know, and here's the thing that you brought up a good point. If I was to offer you this 2 weeks ago when it was 95, 100 degrees and humid, it wouldn't feel as good to have it. I mean, even though it will taste good, just the connection won't be there. And because the connection won't be there, there's a good chance that you probably won't enjoy it. You might say, "Oh, this is not bad," but
and we're big.
for now,
We're definitely cheerleaders for having a good experience with your wine, and everything should be like proper to enjoy your wine. Like I wouldn't take a chilled white in the middle of a blizzard, even though I like a chilled white, but the whole experience isn't correct for that. And like I said, now is that time that for me, I really start to thrive as a wine drinker right now because I just love the whole essence of cool air and nice red wine.
that's it. Cool air and red wine.
I mean, I could do red wine anytime. Doesn't matter. I could be.
Well, you're probably when you're probably in the summertime, you're probably drinking red wine in a room that's freezing from the air conditioner. So
Yes, as if you watch our clips, you would have seen that.
but if we were on a patio outside on the beach and it was 100 degrees outside with the sun beaming on us, maybe you might reconsider that.
Yeah. It's so funny because I never until we started doing this type of show and I started listening to you, I never really thought about the environment, the atmosphere, the surroundings for wine. I just thought of it as an alcohol that you drink. Okay, you want to drink an alcohol, you drink, and now it's like I need to have everything set up for me to enjoy the different types of wines that I'm going to have.
I'll take a step further. You said about your environment and enjoying it. And if you are in a very chaotic environment and things are just not going right, sometimes that choice of wine that you enjoy might not taste the same.
Yeah.
Because
Oh yeah.
Because there's so much chemically on your palate when you're like angry, agitated, pissed off. There's a buildup of acid on your palate, or your pH levels just go right through the roof. That glass of wine that you truly enjoy every night is not going to taste the same when your environment is chaotic.
So
Well,
basically, you are saying you have to get into the mindset to enjoy your wine. The best thing to do, mindset, atmosphere, environment, temperature, all this stuff will improve your enjoyment.
yeah. So what you want to do is you want to meditate first in a chaotic environment. When you're done meditating, the second you have that wine, it's going to be heaven.
Or you take the chaotic environment, you drink a crappy wine you don't really like just to get the buzz going, and then you could be like, oh, this is a good wine after you don't care about what's going on.
Once the buzz is there, everything tastes good.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, that's great because yeah, I wasn't too familiar with the Franc. I love trying the new stuff that you talk about. You did give me one, and I didn't specifically think about it when I drank it because we didn't do this clip yet, but I know I enjoyed it. And like I said, I like something that's a little bit more challenging to the palate, and it was so good.
Awesome. And for our listening audience, just some point of references, Cabernet Francs, if you decide that you want to try some, I recommend that you first start with France and specifically the Loire. So Cabernet Francs from the Loire are a great starting point. They're inexpensive and they're actually a great introduction to that true style of the wine. And then other parts that you should try is here, Nash in the US, two areas. The Finger Lakes up in upstate New York make fantastic Cabernet Franc. And then also in Long Island, there are a collection of wineries in Long Island that are planting Cabernet Franc, and they're actually pretty impressive.
Oh, wow.
So we're also going to, and on that note too, Ari, we've discussed this with our Vines Unknown series. keep a lookout that we're going to extend our Vines Unknown to wineries across the U.S., not just from California.
Yes, that's going to be pretty exciting because I know that there's some really cool places across the states. I mean, every time I go somewhere, somebody will point out, oh, this winery does this winery does that. And I'm like, you know what? Let's.
If I can give you a quick fun fact that to entice our listening audience to continue to follow our segments, is that right now, currently, there are close to 40 states in the U.S. that make wine.
That's crazy. I
So
thought it would be like maybe like less than 10.
So if you take the east and west coast, the whole coastline on the east and west coast are suitable for making wine, growing grapes, making wine. The southwest, because of its arid conditions, are ideal for growing grapes and making wine.
Really?
Texas is ideal for right now. Texas is on the verge of becoming one of the next hottest wine producing states in the country.
That's actually the last place that I would have thought if you asked me.
Texas, right?
Texas.
So, so every part of the U.S. has this unique microclimate that can grow grapes and make wine. Now, it doesn't mean they're all going to make the same kind of wine. Everything is personal preference, but there's a great deal of investments that are going on in these states that are trying to develop a more nurturing wine culture.
Okay, we're definitely going to visit a lot of these in our series because
yes,
there's just too much good stuff out there. Can I just ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Hawaii, Alaska, yes or no for wines?
Alaska is ideal for ice wine, which is a segment that we'll be doing pretty soon. Ice wine is basically wine made from frozen grapes.
Ooh, okay.
And ice wine is basically sweet, like dessert wine.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Hawaii, yes, same thing. They can grow grapes. There are individuals that have been making wine in Hawaii, but nothing yet that we've had our hands on that we can discuss. But we will be exploring that as well.
Interesting. Okay.
Puerto Rico is a Commonwealth, right? Isn't it
Yes.
So they grow grapes there as well. They've been experimenting with wine in Puerto Rico. There are other U.S. territories that we can like branch out, but right now we're going to definitely bring to our audience the cool approaches to making wine in these 40 different states in the U.S.
What state? Give me one state that doesn't make wine.
So South Dakota, North Dakota.
Oh, you losers!
No, it's not because they don't. It's just that I mean, this is just from what I've been given to us, some of the reports that haven't been making wine. But why don't we do this, Ari? We're going to post on our social media, Instagram and Facebook, of the states that are making wine today in the U.S.
Yeah, we definitely should. Absolutely.
Right.
I just think I think the Vines Unknown is so cool with exploring all these places all over the world, and we're going to continue doing that. But I think it's going to be so cool to visit these kind of homeland areas, and there's so many cool stories and so many talented people that are doing it all across this country.
We'll definitely, not to get off topic, but there's, like you just said, so many fascinating stories. We're also going to touch on segments where we're going to actually bring all like celebrities and athletes who are actually now starting their own wineries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's becoming
That's becoming like crazy. I think you gave me a bottle that had a Snoop Dogg on it.
Well, actually, yeah, Snoop Dogg became the face of a new release from the company called 19 Crimes out of Australia.
Which 19 Crimes is pretty popular, I think. I see it
Pretty
everywhere.
popular, yeah. And they released a wine called Cali Red, and Snoop Dogg is on the label.
I'm just gonna say this, like, I think it's cool that like they're bringing it to the forefront of culture now, but it's like, let's just limit the amount of celebrity like endorsement in this stuff, because it's like, and then I feel like whether the wine's good or bad, it's going to become popular because some celebrities hawking it. So let's talk about what wines are actually really good that the celebrities are endorsing, and maybe some of the ones that aren't so good, and we get slapped with a lawsuit or something.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so basically that kind of is the rundown for our segment on Cabernet Franc.
Excellent.
Top choices, right? Anything that we bring to this segment is a top choice.
Always. We wouldn't be talking about it otherwise. But it's good to learn about these things, and it's good to expose them, especially to people who don't know. So Foti, once again, thank you for the knowledge. Thank you for the experience. And actually, I know you could do this in a much more complicated manner, so it's good for me and hopefully for people out there that you're able to explain these things in a nice, simple fashion. So it's really, it goes down easy, as we say, which I think is important with wine.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll have this posted as a video on our app, as a mini podcast all over the place. So we will see you next time. Foti, thank you again.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone.